Hello, friends. It's been almost a year since I last read any part of this book, Ernest Sato's Japanese book collection at Cambridge University Library, um, by Noboru Koyama. Sorry, that's a bit, there we are, which I translated. Um, so today I want to read chapter 4, since I've done the rest up to that point. Seems logical. But before I do, let me just point out, okay, this is the paperback 6 by 9 inches, okay, which you can get on Amazon, okay. Um, Now there used to be a larger paperback, but these days, uh, this is the larger book. It's actually a hardcover. And let me see, what is that? I think it's 8.5 by 11 inches or something of that nature. And of course, with the larger book, you have larger pages and bigger print. Okay, the sales pitch is almost finished. Um, there is also a Kindle. Okay, and if you don't want to pay any money at all, let me show you what you can do. Let me just share. There we are. I think that's it there. Yeah. Okay. So this is the university I used to I'd be a professor at for, well, from 1994 till about 2020, yeah, full time anyway. And here is the academic repository of Kyushu Institute of Technology, known as Kee-tah-kew, so you can look that up. And here's a ranking of uh, various items on the repository. And you will see, well, if you read Japanese, you will see Ernest Sato no Kenkyu, sono Nikki to Tegami Kara. That's one of mine, research into Ernest Sato from his letters and diaries. But the one that I'm talking about today is this one, Ernest Sato's Japanese book collection at Cambridge University Library, Sharaku and the Origins of the Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō manuscript. So if we click on that, then you will find, I hope, just a minute, let's see what happens. It should come out, but it's not doing so. Why not? Oh, yes, it's just it's the it's coming, but it takes a while. That's all. There we are. So there we are. That's the actual entry on the repository, and you can download it for free. Um, my cat has just noticed that my wife has returned, so I will just go and let her. Whoops, go on. Sorry. Oh dear. Right, so you can actually download this for free from the repository of Kyushu Institute of Technology. Sorry about that brief interruption. And just to show you, uh, here is the paperback on Amazon. This one is Amazon.com, but there's a little trick if you want to, for example, if you wanted to buy it on Amazon Japan, what you do is you get rid of the M in the com and put a dot and then JP, and you will find that it goes over to Amazon Japan. Terrific. That is actually Amazon Japan right there. As you could see, amazon.co.jp. Or if you wanted to buy it from the UK, Amazon, just get rid of JP and put UK in the reference at the top, the search, and there you are. There it is in the UK. Okay, so jolly good. So let's, without further ado, let's get into yes, well, that's just general Google search. I think I can probably get rid of these now. Okay, like that. And just share the text, which I'm going to read. So here we go. Right, so chapter 4. This is a PDF of the book. So I'm going to start now. Before I do, I'll take a little sip of lemonade to get me going. Here we go. Chapter 4, The Movements of Sato's Book Collection and the Catalogues He Made. The Movements of Sato's Book Collection. In order to investigate the provenance, that's raireki in Japanese, of Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō, up to this point, this book has focused on Sato's book collecting. But to grasp the movements of Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō, it is necessary to research the state and movements of the collection after that. Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō was one item in Sato's collection, so naturally its whereabouts was greatly influenced by the fate of the collection as a whole. As already mentioned, Ernest Sato collected many Japanese books, including ancient and classical literature, wakan kosho. He was an outstanding collector. Of course, wakan kosho, there is kanji for that, but I don't include that in this book. He was an outstanding collector. The large number of Japanese books which he had collected was in 1885 disposed of or broken up, after his career as a diplomat, consular official, changed greatly in the previous year with his posting to Thailand. As the disposal of collection, these books were sent from his new posting at Bangkok to Britain or Japan. A part of it was returned to Japan. When Sato was working at the British legation in Tokyo, he was attached to the consular service. He dreamed of promotion to the diplomatic service even while he was in Japan. While he was on leave in Britain in 1883, towards the end of the year, the chance of promotion came his way. So he did not return to Japan, where he had previously been posted, but in 1884 took up a new post in Thailand, Siam as it then was, at Bangkok. At first he was agent and consul general, then in 1885 he was appointed minister resident and consul general. So through his appointment to Bangkok, he was able to move up from the consular to the diplomatic service. It's a very rare promotion between the services. At the stage when Sato was newly appointed to Bangkok, in other words in 1884, he moved his collection of Japanese books from Tokyo, where he had left it, and established a library of Japanese works in the British Consulate General in Bangkok. The collection was large and occupied several large rooms in the Consulate General. Occupying 4 or 5 large rooms, the number of volumes must have been very large. The collection was a symbol of his research into Japan and his collecting for that purpose of his training period. For Sato as Minister Resident and Consul General in Thailand, Siam, this training period had already finished. As part of his further career development as a newly appointed diplomat, he resolved to dispose of and break up his library of Japanese books, which he had established in Bangkok. One reason may have been that the climate of Bangkok was not suitable for preserving the books in good condition. In fact, regarding the movement of Sato's former collection, it had already started before he was appointed to Bangkok. In 1883, he returned to Britain on leave. At that time, he sent part of his collection from Japan to London, particularly the best of the old editions and printed books. Until that time, Sato had concentrated on building up his collection of Japanese books, but from that point he began to get rid of them. This was before he worked in Thailand or other countries, and before he was invited to move to the diplomatic service. Was Sato's selling of his old books prompted by Anderson's talk of selling his artworks and book collection to the British Museum? I've got some footnotes there, which I'll pass over. Sorry. I have to move to the next page. I don't want to skip. It sometimes skips. Okay, so that's the next page, but it's down the bottom of the page. Hold on. So we're going to the top of the page. There we are. This is a problem with the PDFs. It's happened again. Okay. From Sato's individual situation described above, his pursuit of a career as a diplomat, touching on the state of his collection, I want to give a simple explanation of the final destination of his collection. Final destination of the, sorry, just a minute. Get rid of that if I can. The final destination of the greater part of Sato's collection was Cambridge University Library and the British Library, the former British Museum Library. As we know from the final destination being broadly two places, there were broadly two movements or flows, nagare. One was towards the Cambridge University Library and the other was towards the British Museum. Of these, the former was the main stream. As already mentioned, many of the important old editions and old printed books, including old and classical literature, wakan kosho, were collected in two stages by the British Museum. After 1973, when the British Museum was divided into the British Museum and the British Library, the former British Museum Library, these books became the nucleus of the British Library's collection of classical Japanese books. This first stage was a total of 219 items, 938 volumes. This included early Korean printed books. This was the highlight, medama, of Sato's collection. These books were officially sold to the British Museum on September the 22nd, 1884. At this point, Sato had already taken up his post at Bangkok about 6 months previously. The discussions leading to the sale had already taken place when Sato was in London in 1883. The second stage of collection by the British Museum is recorded as having taken place on June the 13th, 1885, when Sato donated 106 items, 640 volumes. Please note I'm using American system for dates. So June 13th, 1885, not 13th of June, 1885, which is British. Okay, this was part of Sato's disposal of his collection and was sent from Bangkok to Britain and donated to the British Museum. Apart from the 640 volumes of Japanese books, Wakansho, on the same date, 49 Korean books, Chosenbon, were also donated by Sato to the British Museum. Next, I would like to explain the flow of Sato's collected books which ended up in the Cambridge University Library. The greater part of these books was taken directly into the Cambridge University Library, but some went elsewhere first. As already mentioned, the second stage of collection by the British Museum, the donation, was also part of this flow. The books in this flow were donated by Sato to his friends and colleagues, Aston, Chamberlain, James Troop, and others. Perhaps rather than flow, stream could have been better, possibly. The books which Sato gave to his friends and colleagues, including the ones sent to Dickens, make up the main part of the disposal of his collection, with the largest number of volumes involved. The center of this second flow, or stream, was the collection sent by Sato to F.V. Dickens, Francis Victor Dickens, in London for storage. Frederick Victor Dickens, I beg your pardon. For a while, Dickens looked after these books, but Sato was still probably their owner. Or were they temporarily transferred to the ownership of Dickens and later returned to Sato? This point is not clear, but it may be better to consider that Sato remained the owner throughout. Dickens may have simply helped out with storing the books. After that, in January 1892, while Sato was on home leave, he donated these books to Aston, who was continuing to research about Japan in the English countryside. These books were taken into Aston's collection and later taken into Cambridge University Library. In Sato's former... Whoops, again we've jumped. Have to go back up to the top of the page. In Sato's former... I think, can we use this? Yeah. In Sato's former collection, the British Museum, British Library part is the one which represents Sato's research into books and printing. In contrast, the part of Sato's former collection in the Cambridge University Library represents the whole story of Sato as a researcher of Japan, Japanologist. We can understand the breadth of Sato's research from the Cambridge collection. In the second flow, nagare, or stream of books, in the second flow, books donated to Chamberlain from Sato's former collection were sent from Bangkok to Japan, where Chamberlain was residing. And they were used for his research into Japan, Japanology. So, some Japanese books which had been sent from Japan to Bangkok were returned to Japan. When Chamberlain, that's Basil Hall Chamberlain, left Japan for good, his collection, including books from Sato's former collection, were left behind. Unlike Sato's and Aston's collections, they were not sent to Britain. Many were sold to Ueda Kazutoshi, 1867 to 1937, and others, and after that taken into the library of Nihon University, etc. Chamberlain's former collection was also taken into many other libraries in Japan. Sato's books, which were donated to the Kobe consul James Troup, T-R-O-U-P, after they had once been returned to Sato, finally ended up at Oxford University's Bodleian Library. They now form an important part of the classical books collection at the Bodleian's Japan Research Library. They are mainly Buddhist texts. Troup was researching Buddhism. Regarding Ernest Sato's collection catalogues, Cambridge University has 15, and the Yokohama Archives of History has 8. I intend to give an outline of these catalogues in this book. These catalogues of Sato's collection are according to field and period, and they indicate the flow of his collection. Of course, by checking all the catalogues, we can follow the whereabouts of Sato's collection, which is a major objective of this book, but not stopping there. By looking through these catalogues, we can hope to better understand the movement of his collection in detail, especially by looking at 2 or 3 catalogues. In short, the point of this work is to select 2 or 3 typical catalogues. As will be stated later, by selecting 3 catalogues, we can investigate the contents, etc., of each book in this chapter. The 15 catalogues of Sato's collection at Cambridge University Library. The 15 catalogues of Cambridge University Library were published in 2016, Heisei 28, as a reprint facsimile edition in 3 volumes by Yumani Shobo, publisher, under the title Cambridge Daigaku Toshokan Shozo Ernest Sato Kanren Zosho Mokuroku. In those 3 volumes, the 15 catalogues are set out. I was responsible for supervision and the synopsis. In this book regarding the collection at Cambridge University Library, I will refer to the catalogues in Cambridge Daigaku Toshokan Shozo Ernest Sato Kanren Zosho Mokuroku volumes 1 to 3. Regarding these 15 catalogues, title, period of production, extent of recording, author, etc., are mostly not recorded by the ordinary method. This itself creates difficult problems. In the reprint by Yumani Shobo, regarding the titles of the 15 catalogues, they are in principle described as Cambridge Daigaku Shozo Wakansho Sogo Mokuroku. But in the catalogues, there are 2 called Zosho Mokuroku, 2 called Sato Zosho Mokuroku, 1 simply called Mokuroku, etc. So there are many catalogues with the same or similar names, and to distinguish between them, we go to the next page next. Some corrections were made. In this book, for convenience, I will use the same titles as used in the Yumani Shobo reprint. The following is a list of the 15 catalogues. Number 1, Chairo Zosho Mokuroku, the Brown Catalogue. Number 2, Sato Zosho no uchi gesaku share oyobi chubon zuihitsu gugen no tagui narabi ni kokushoku chitsuiri nado no shoseki mokuroku. Catalogue of cheap literature, books for amusement, half-sized books, essays, fables, and books in black folding cases among Sato's collection. 3. Usuzumi Iro Zosho Mokuroku, the Blue-Grey Catalogue. 4. Nihon Kae Izen Kohan Shoseki no Mokuroku, Catalogue of Japanese old printed books before 1624. 5. Eikoku Okuri Nihon Kohan Shoseki Bango Junji Mokuroku, Catalogue of Japanese old printed books sent to Britain in numerical order. 6. Chosen Han Shoseki Mokuroku, Catalogue of Korean printed books. 7. Chosen Han Shoseki Mokuroku Junjo Shidai no Hoko, supplementary draft of Catalogue of Korean printed books in numerical order. 8. Eikoku ni Okuru Shoseki no Mokuroku, Catalogue of books sent to Britain. 9. Monogatari Soshi Nikki no Tagui Kyu Mokuroku ni Korearite Gen ni Shoseki Miyataranu Bun, unfound tales, storybooks, diaries, and similar books on the former catalogue. Number 10, Monogatari Oyobi Soshi Nikki Rui no Bu, Waka Narabi ni Kiko Rui no Bu, a section of tales, storybooks, diaries, and similar books, and a section of poetry, accounts of travels, etc. With regard to the titles of these catalogues, the English translations of these catalogues, these were given to me by the author Noboru Koyama. So they're very accurate. Number 11, Masume Genko Yoshi Sato Zosho Mokuroku, Catalogue of Sato Collection in Grid Manuscript Paper. Number 12, Ichimai Mono Sato Zosho Mokuroku, Catalogue of Sato Collection in one sheet. Number 13, Shusatsu Keishi Mokuroku, Vermilion Ruled Paper Catalogue. 14, Kobe Okuri Bukkyo ni Kankei Suru Kabun no Shoseki Mokuroku, Provisional Catalogue of Books on Buddhism sent to Kobe. And number 15, List of Japanese books. First, the 15 catalogues, in the broad sense, the catalogue of Sato's collection, can be divided into two types, those covering the whole of Sato's collection, Zosho Mokuroku, and catalogues which record only specific areas within the collection. Catalogues number 1 and number 3 above are of the former type. The rest are all of the latter type, classified into different areas. I will talk about the former type later. Regarding the 13 catalogues of the latter type, I will give a simple explanation. Number 2, Sato Zosho no etc., was created by Sato in 1885 in Bangkok. This catalogue is as indicated by its title, namely Gesaku, cheap literature, Sharabon, books for amusement, Chubon, half-sized books, Zuihitsu, essays, Gugen, fables, and books in a black chitsu, Japanese-style book cover. Catalogue number 4, Nihon Kaie Izen Kohan Shoseki no Mokuroku, is a catalogue of 78 old editions and old printed books, which Sato donated to the British Museum in 1885. These were sent from Bangkok to London. Catalogue number 5 has almost the same titles as in catalogue number 4. Oops, sorry. I got just a minute. Oh dear, the difference is the ordering of the books in the A-E-U-E-O order of the Japanese syllabary, and a renumbering caused by this. Catalogue number 6 is, if I can, oh dear, what's going on here? Catalogue number 6. Sorry, it's jumping up. Oh, it keeps jumping. Very annoying. Catalogue number 6 is a catalogue of the Korean books donated by Sato to the British. Whoops. Oopsie, next. British Museum in 1885. Catalogue number 7 is a reordering of the books in catalogue number 6. The Korean books in catalogue number 6 and the Japanese books in catalogue number 4 were both recorded as received by the British Museum on June the 13th, 1885. The British Museum records them together as a total of 106 items, 640 volumes. Catalogue number 8, Eikoku ni Okuru Shoseki no Mokuroku, is a catalogue of 122 books sent from Bangkok to Britain in 1885. They were addressed to Frederick Victor Dickens. Regarding the title of this catalogue, there are two possible titles, a long and a short one. The long title is Eikoku ni Okuru Shoseki no Mokuroku Tadashi Monogatari Oyobi Soshi Nikki no Tagui. As the long title indicates, this catalogue is classified into books of tales, monogatari, storybooks, and diaries. Storybooks, soshi, and diaries, nikki. Catalogue number 9, Monogatari Soshi Nikki no Tagui Kyu Mokuroku ni Korearite Gen ni Miataranu Bun, is a catalogue or list created by Sato when he checked his collection in Bangkok on April 25th, 1885, of books which he could not find. As the title indicates, Sato probably consulted the old catalogue, Kyu Mokuroku, when checking his collection at that time. It is not possible to ascertain exactly what is meant by Kyu Mokuroku in this title, but Sato probably regarded the new catalogue, Shin Mokuroku, as the Chairo Zosho Mokuroku, the brown catalogue. The title of catalogue number 9 includes Monogatari Soshi Nikki, but there are two parts, and the second is Waka Kasho to Kiko, accounts of travels. There are also two parts to catalogue number 8, Eikoku ni okuru shoseki no mokroku, and catalogue number 10, Monogatari oyobi Soshi Nikki Rui no Bu, etc. In short, in these catalogues, short titles are employed. The titles were too long as they were abridged. However, long titles express the contents of the catalogue more precisely. Catalogue number 10 was produced after catalogue number 9. The books in catalogue number 10 are almost the same as those in number 8. When Sato checked his collection with number 9, he did find some books. Then he corrected number 8 to produce number 10. The catalogue numbers 8, 9, and 10 all belong to one group. Of course, this would make sense to people who had all the catalogues in front of them, more than it does to you and me, perhaps. Catalogue number 11, Masume Genko Yoshi Sato Zoshi Mokuroku, is a list of the books sent by Sato from Bangkok in 1885 to Dickens in London. The title of the catalogue depends on the paper used. This is not a complete catalogue. There is a part which has been lost. In the extant catalogue, 870 items are recorded. A number is attached to the top of all of the recorded books. Sato probably attached the numbers to know the total number of books. According to these numbers, he could grasp the number of books he had sent. Catalogue 12, Ichimai Mono Sato Zosho Mokuroku, was folded inside the book titled Nihon Todo Nisen Nen Sode Kagami Harikomicho, tentative title. It includes 19 books. Now Cambridge University Library holds Nihon Todo Nisen Nen Sode Kagami Harikomicho. The British Library holds all of the 19 books mentioned. Catalogue number 13, Shusatsu Keishi Mokuroku, contains 41 Buddhist texts. These books were presented by Sato to Thomas Watters, Watters. Is that Watters, maybe? 1840 to 1901. It is not clear whether they were all transferred to Watters. Watters worked as a British consul in China and Korea and researched Buddhism at the same time. Sato had met Watters in London and elsewhere. The paper used, there's a note by Hamish Todd below, the Sato collection of Japanese books in the British Library. Okay. The paper used in this catalogue was lined paper printed in red, which caused it to be named for convenience's sake Vermilion Ruled Paper Catalogue. Catalogue number 14 contains Buddhist works sent in 1885 by Sato from Bangkok to the British consul James Troop in Kobe. It comprises 77 items, 317 volumes. Troop was a colleague of Sato in the Japan Consular Service who had worked in Japan and elsewhere. He was researching Buddhism and, like Watters, could be described as a scholar of Buddhism. I think he was from Aberdeenshire. I think Troop is a fairly common name up there. These books were probably returned by Troop to Sato. In 1908, Sato donated 338 volumes of Buddhist books in Japanese to the Bodleian Library at Oxford University. Among these, there were 6 manuscripts. In the same year, Sato was awarded an honorary doctorate, Doctor of Civil Law, by Oxford University, DCL. It was probably to express his gratitude that he donated the books in catalogue number 14 to the university's Bodleian Library. So, after being awarded the DCL, and not before. Catalogue number 15, List of Japanese Books, is a list of books donated by Sato to Cambridge University Library in 1912, 371 volumes, and 1913, 62 volumes. In 1911, the library had taken over Aston's collection, which included many books formerly in Sato's collection. Sato's total donation in 1912 and 1913 amounted to 433 volumes and was in addition to those books in Aston's collection. The 433 volumes included all the Japanese books which Sato had, since his disposal of collection in 1885, continued to keep for himself. Next, I want to explain about catalogue number 1, Chairo Zosho Mokuroku, the Brown Catalogue, and number 3, Usuzumi Iro Zosho Mokuroku, the Blue-Grey Catalogue, of which the actual colour is a rather bluish-grey, which, when they were created, must have comprised the whole of Sato's collection. They were both originally just called Zosho Mokuroku, Collection Catalogue. This is also stated in the Cambridge University Library Catalogue of Old Japanese Books. In 2016, when I was editing Yumani Shobo's Cambridge Daigaku Toshokan Shozo ERNEST SATOW Kanren Zosho Mokuroku, there were several documents with the title Zosho Mokuroku, so to make a distinction between them, the extra words were added to make different titles. I decided to distinguish by the colour of the covers. This naming was inevitable to distinguish between various catalogues. In this book, for the same reason, I am using the same titles. The Brown Catalogue of the collection, Chairo Zosho Mokuroku. The Brown Catalogue, Chairo Zosho Mokuroku, is the most comprehensive catalogue of Satow's Japanese book collection. There are many books included which were published in the Meiji period. The number of books recorded in this catalogue is the largest, including more than 3,000 books. At the end of this chapter, I will provide a chart classifying the books in the Brown Catalogue. According to the chart, there are 3,084 books. However, this number may vary according to the method of counting, the way of recording, etc. The total number is best understood as being an approximate figure. Anyway, there are more than 3,000 items in this Brown Catalogue. There are many books in the Chairo Zosho Mokuroku, but the Japanese books, Wakan Kosho below, are not included. First, there are 938 volumes which Satow sold to the British Museum on September the 22nd, 1884. Next, the Japanese books, Wakansho, contained in catalogue number 4, Nihon Kan-e Izen Kohan Shoseki no Mokuroku, and catalogue number 5, Eikoku Okuri Nihon Kohan Shoseki Bango Junji Mokuroku are not included. The contents of catalogues number 4 and number 5 are almost the same. The old printed books in both catalogues are the Wakansho, which Satow donated to the British Museum in June 1885. Although there are a few exceptions, in principle, the precious books, old editions, old printed books, etc., donated to the British Museum, British Library, are not contained in the Brown Catalogue. Furthermore, regarding the books which Satow sent from Bangkok or Japan to Britain, the books in catalogue number 2, Sato Zosho no, etc., are not contained in this catalogue. Also, among 41 items in Shusatsu Keishi Mokuroku, Buddhist texts of catalogue, only 3 are included in the Brown Catalogue and 38 are omitted. In the end, in order to clarify the full picture of Satow's book collection, the Brown Catalogue is central, but the following must be added. Catalogue number 2, Sato Zosho no, etc., Catalogue number 4, Nihon Kan-e Izen Kohan Shoseki no Mokuroku, or number 5, Eikoku Okuri Nihon Kohan Shoseki Bango Junji Mokuroku, and the 38 items from catalogue number 13. It is also necessary to add the 938 books sold by Satow to the British Museum on September the 22nd, 1884. For several of the books entered in the Brown Catalogue in the space above the title, a mark is added in red. The mark consists of one kanji character and one of 2 types of symbol, kigo. Books sent to Chamberlain, Basil Hall Chamberlain, whose pen name was, what's that? Or, I suppose, are marked Or. Is that right? Have I read that right? Books sent to Dickens in Britain are marked A, as in Eikoku. Books sent to the Kobe Consul Troop are marked Shin, which is the first character of Kobe, the Ko. Old prints are marked Ko, meaning old, etc. Some of Satow's books were Hongoku Mawashi. They are marked with a dot. Hongoku Mawashi means that they'll be sent to, well, hang on. It is not clear what Hongoku Mawashi meant. It may have been bound for Japan or via Japan. Oh, I see, okay. Some of the books marked with a dot already have the character A, while some of them only have the dot. The former may mean that the book was sent to Dickens in Britain via Japan. I will explain in detail in the next chapter, chapter 5, but in the Brown Catalogue, apart from the marks, there are also tags, fusen. The place where they are attached is above the place where the marks are found. It is thought that these tags were added when Satow was disposing of his collection. It is not clear what they signify, but they must have been added to distinguish between books. It can be imagined that since Satow sent several books to William Anderson in London and to the British Museum, and that these books may have been marked with tags. but regarding this point there is no conclusive proof. Next, I would like to provide a simple explanation of the time until when entries continued to be made in the Brown Catalogue. In the catalogue, there is a part which has been added, a supplement, and among the documents entered, some books have the date added. According to that, the date of the entry in the catalogue is clear. For example, in the Zoho Gagen Shuran, there is an entry Meiji 19, 1886, May the 9th, reached Siam, that's Senkoku, from Tokyo, Japan, first part. This note was added by Sato. In Bangkok, Sato received delivery of the Zoho Gagen Shuran, parts 11 to 14, 3 volumes per part. In 1886, Meiji 19, on May the 9th, he entered this fact in the Brown Catalogue. The Zoho Gagen Shuran, revised by Nakajima Hirotari, 57 volumes total, was completed in July 1887. In the previous year, Sato received the part not yet completed at Bangkok and entered it in the Brown Catalogue. From this we know that entries in the Brown Catalogue continued at least until May 1886. Whoops. Okay, next page. In 1885, Sato began to dispose of his book collection and divide it up. But regarding the Brown Catalogue, he kept it in his possession in Bangkok at least until the early summer of the following year, 1886, and continued to add to part of the catalogue. So Sato's disposal and division of his book collection was not completely finished in 1885, but even if there were exceptions, it is generally correct to say that the disposal of collection took place in 1885. So, when were the first entries made in the Brown Catalogue? Taking into account books not entered in the catalogue, as mentioned above, it seems likely that the first entries were made in 1884. However, at that time, Sato was away from Japan. As previously stated, in 1884, Meiji 17, Sato moved the books he had left in Tokyo to Bangkok and at the Consulate General created a library of Japanese books. The creation of the Brown Catalogue, Chairo Zosho Mokuroku, seems to have some connection with the transfer of Sato's Japanese books from Japan to Bangkok. Even if Sato himself was away from Japan, his librarian could have begun making entries in the catalogue. As I mentioned, when introducing Catalogue 9, number 9, Monogatari, Soshi, Nikki, etc., it seems that Sato regarded the Brown Catalogue as a new catalogue. This was in April 1885. This appears to be consistent with entries in the Brown Catalogue commencing in 1884. Furthermore, as I have already mentioned in this chapter, in the Brown Catalogue, the Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō manuscript 3 volumes and the Ukiyo-e shi no den manuscript 1 volume are entered. There is no entry for Ukiyo-e ko manuscript 1 volume, but instead there is Ukiyo-e ruikō manuscript 1 volume. Possibly the Ukiyo-e ruikō manuscript 1 volume in the Brown Catalogue is now held in the Cambridge University Library as the Ukiyo-e ko manuscript 1 volume. Either way, the Brown Catalogue contains the Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō, etc. Of all Sato's catalogues, it is only the Brown Catalogue which includes the Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō. I will discuss this point later. The Blue-Grey Catalogue, Usuzumi Iro Zosho Mokuroku. Next, I will add a simple explanation of the Blue-Grey Catalogue, Usuzumi Iro Zosho Mokuroku. Usuzumi is thin India ink, hence watery grey, and the actual colour of the book looks bluish-grey. Apart from this catalogue, Sato's 14 other catalogues, along with his former collections, passed via Aston's collection in 1911 into Cambridge University Library. However, this Blue-Grey Catalogue took a different route into Cambridge University Library's collection. The Blue-Grey Catalogue was donated in 1944, Showa 19, to Cambridge University by the famous Heffer's bookshop in the city of Cambridge. It is not clear how it came into the possession of Heffer's. It was probably because Cambridge University Library had most of Sato's former book collection that Heffer's donated the Usuzumi Iro Zosho Mokuroku to the library. Heffer's still exists in Cambridge, although now it's part of Blackwell's, the similar Oxford bookshop, which seems to have taken it over. The number of documents entered in the Usuzumi Iro Zosho Mokuroku was about 2,550. At the end of this chapter, there will be a chart indicating the various fields of the documents, and that will account for 2,451 items. I mentioned in connection with the Brown Catalogue, Chairo Zosho Mokuroku, that it would not be a problem to understand the catalogues in round numbers. Indeed, that would probably be better. Whoops. Comparing with the Brown Catalogue, which contains more than 3,000 books, the Blue-Grey Catalogue, Usuzumi Zosho Mokuroku, oh dear, has about 500 less entries. As in the case of the Brown Catalogue, the Blue-Grey Catalogue has book titles, names of authors, era, number of volumes, and, next page, year and month of woodblock. Let's just check that. Oh. When trying to discover the last entries in the Blue-Grey Catalogue, the year and month of the creation of the woodblock is an important clue. In the case of Aso-san Jorei Henki manuscript, the year and month of the woodblock is given as Meiji 14, 1881. This makes it clear that entries in the Blue-Grey Catalogue continued at least until 1881. From calligraphy, it is not easy to establish who wrote the entries in Sato's catalogues, but in some cases we can do so up to a point. The greater part of the Usuzumi-iro Zosho Mokuroku, judging by the handwriting, was entered by Sato's librarian, Shirai Shimamichi, who passed away in May 1880, Meiji 13, at Sato's house. From the handwriting, we can see that the latter part of Usuzumi-iro Zosho Mokuroku was entered by someone other than Shirai Shimamichi. The Meiji 14 entry for Aso-san Jorei Henki was entered by a different hand to that of Shiraishi. The greater part of the Blue-Grey Catalogue was first entered by Shirai Shimamichi, but after he died in May 1880, Meiji 13, the entries were continued by a different person. This includes documents for which the woodblock was created in 1881, Meiji 14. When Sato went home on leave to Britain in 1883, Meiji 16, he sent books from Japan to Britain and sold them to the British Museum. Officially on September the 22nd of the following year, 1884, Meiji 17, including the Korean books, he sold a total of 219 items, 938 volumes, to the British Museum for a total of £300. Among the books purchased by the British Museum there were Nanyo Iro Keiba and Hashu Koyo. These two works are included in the Blue-Grey Catalogue, and it helps us to confirm the period of entries in the Usuzumi-iro Zosho Mokuroku. Sato left Japan for home leave in January 1883, so probably the entries had been completed at that time. The work must have continued until he left Japan. Next is a flowchart. Flowchart Zushi of Sato's collection. Above, I have given an outline of the 15 catalogues of Sato's book collection held at Cambridge University Library. Next, I have prepared a flowchart of Sato's collection. Furthermore, in that chart I have added the numbers of the 15 catalogues. In that chart expressing the flow of Sato's collection, I have entered the destination and addressees and libraries, etc., in order to give an understanding of the full picture of the movements of Sato's collection. In the flow of Sato's collection, I have situated the 15 catalogues. By doing this, the role of each catalogue should become clear. This chart includes the library of books stored at Iida-machi, Tokyo, and at Bangkok, the Library of Japanese Books. The Iida-machi library was built by Sato at his home in Tokyo, while the Bangkok library was the one he created after he was appointed Consul General, later Minister Resident and Consul General, within the Consulate General at Bangkok, later the Legation. As previously stated, the Japanese books occupied several large rooms. In 1879, Meiji 12, Sato's library at his Iida-machi house in Tokyo was completed. Sato's book collection was kept there for 5 years until 1884, Meiji 17. In 1884, Sato was appointed agent and consul general at Bangkok, so he moved his collection from Tokyo to Bangkok. He probably sent instructions by letter from Bangkok to his house in Tokyo. As a British diplomat, it was probably not such a difficult matter to move the collection from Tokyo to Bangkok. Then at the Consulate General in Bangkok, the Library of Japanese Books was established. And so here is the flowchart, movements of Sato's collection summary. And I think that's on the next page, actually. This page is blank. Let's see. If we keep going, does it come to the next page? Hopefully. So we're on page 143. Well, yes, I think so. Well, we're in luck. Good. So here's the flow chart. Movements of Sato's collection, summary. It's quite complicated. I don't think I'm going to read it. I might make it a bit smaller so you can see the whole thing in one place. Can you? Perhaps, hopefully. Oops. This is quite tricky. Yeah, I think that's the whole thing there. Movements of Sato's collection. So we've got the Idamachi Library, the Bangkok Library, books sent to Dickens in Britain, books sent to Chamberlain, Basil Hall Chamberlain, books sent to the British Museum, and then on to it became the British Library. Yeah, and the ones sent to Dickens seem to have gone into the Aston collection and then into Cambridge University Library. And there are some that have gone to the Bodleian, as already explained, but this is an attempt to represent it in a flowchart. Okay, let's move on. Hopefully that's page 144, or is it 145? The situation of Sato's book collection at Idamachi can be glimpsed through catalogue number 3, Usuzumi Iro Zosho Mokuroku. The situation of Sato's collection at Bangkok is fully described by the catalogues number 1, 2, 8, 9, 10, and 11. After that, Sato's collection was dispersed from Bangkok to Britain and Japan. The part which was sent to Dickens in London was described in catalogue number 8, 9, 10, and 11. On the other hand, the part which was sent to Bangkok and temporarily stored there before being sent to the British Museum as a donation was described in catalogue numbers 4, 5, 6, 7, and 12. When Sato went on home leave to Britain in 1883, Meiji 16, he gave Buddhist texts to Watters, and these are described in catalogue number 13. However, it is not clear whether all of the texts were given by Sato to Watters when he returned to Britain. In the same way, the Buddhist texts sent from Bangkok to a troop in Kobe are contained in catalogue number 14. Even after he disposed of his collection, Sato kept a number of Japanese books for himself. These books were donated to Cambridge University Library in 1912, Taisho 1, and 1913, Taisho 2. Catalogue number 15, list of Japanese books, comprises the books donated in these 2 years. Okay, next title, or subtitle. The catalogues of Sato's book collection at the Yokohama Archives of History. The Yokohama Archives of History, Yokohama Kaiko Shiryokan, has the following 8 catalogues of Sato's book collection. They are all held as part of the Takeda family papers, Takeda Kani being Sato's Japanese wife. In later years, the papers were donated to the Yokohama Archives of History by the family, of course. Okay. Kohansho Rui, old editions of documents, A. Zosho Mokuroku, catalogue of book collection, B. Zosho Mokuroku Zen, complete catalogue of book collection, C. Zosho Mokuroku D. Zosho Mokuroku Rekishi Heiho Buki Rui, history, arts of war, weapons, E. Shahon Mokuroku, catalogue of manuscripts, F. Zosho Mokuroku, Shosetsu Rui, novels, G. Zosho Mokuroku Ga Ezu Chizurui, paintings, drawings, maps, H. In Nihon Kosho Tsushin number 830, Kira Yoshie, professor of Japan Women's University, I believe, perhaps retired now, I think, probably emeritus, or emerita, I should say, published an essay, ERNEST SATOW'S Kyūzōshō ni tsuite, regarding Ernest Sato's former collection, part 1 of 2, in which he introduced the above 8 catalogues. They were labelled A through H. In this book, I have made the following correction to the titles. First, I have reversed the alphabet and the names of the catalogues. Next, where there was no title, I have added Zosho Mokuroku. In this book, I will use the above catalogue titles and will comment on the catalogues held by the Yokohama Archives of History. Yeah, I wonder why he reversed the alphabet and the names. Normally, we would expect to put the alphabet first, I think. Anyway, I suppose it made sense to him at the time. Next, Zosho Mokuroku D. Of the 8 catalogues held at the Yokohama Archives of History, an examination of the books contained in each one shows that the Zosho Mokuroku D was prepared after all of the others. Zosho Mokuroku D is a catalogue of the books in Sato's possession when he was minister in Japan from July 1895, Meiji 28, to May 1900, Meiji 33. This catalogue includes Tento Sanju Nen, which was published in 1898, Meiji 31, so it probably continued to be updated with new entries until 1900. A point worthy of note in connection with Zosho Mokuroku D is the inclusion of Ukiyo-e ruikō, 1 volume. It is not clear whether this means a printed book or a manuscript of Ukiyo-e ruikō. Even if it is a manuscript, the number of volumes is different, so it is not Saito Geshin Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō. If it is a printed book, the title becomes a problem. As already mentioned in Chapter 1, in the case of Isando, the title, including that of reprinted books, is Shin Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō. Again, if it is the Onchi book, the title is Zoho Ukiyo-e ruikō. In either case, the title was not simply the short one of Ukiyo-e ruikō. Shinzoho or Zoho was added. Of course, it is possible that Shinzoho or Zoho was ignored and the book was simply entered in Zosho Mokuroku D as Ukiyo-e ruikō. It is only a guess, but the Ukiyo-e ruikō 1 volume in Zosho Mokuroku D is probably not a manuscript but a printed book of Ukiyo-e ruikō. When he says it's only a guess, does that means presumably he hasn't seen it himself. Zosho Mokuroku D is the catalogue which refers to Sato's time as minister in Japan. In other words, it is after Sato's disposal of collection. Of course, this means, I think the disposal of collection was Bangkok in 1885, yes? Of course, this means that the greater part of the books in this catalogue were published in the Meiji period, but this is not the case with all the catalogue entries. Edo period manuscripts are also included, for example, Kano Gokafu. Nowadays, the Kano Gokafu is held at Cambridge University Library. It was an item included in the Aston collection published by the library. This is clear from the catalogue of Aston's former collection. Aston's collection included many documents formerly in Sato's collection, and it is recorded as Catalogue of W.G. Aston's collection of Japanese books. The Kano Gokafu is also contained in this catalogue. In the catalogue, books formerly in Sato's collection are marked with an S. This is also the case with the Kano Gokafu. Therefore, Kano Gokafu is a document from Sato's former collection. So S for Sato. Bearing the above in mind, it may be possible to explain the provenance, Raireki, of Kano Gokafu in the following way. First, until about the beginning of the 20th century, Sato kept the Kano Gokafu in Japan. After that, it was donated by Sato to Aston and eventually entered Cambridge University Library as an item in the Aston collection. The greater part of Sato's former collection was transferred to Aston in 1892, Meiji 25, but it may be that Kano Gokafu was sent to Aston after that, for example, at the beginning of the 20th century. But why and how the Kano Gokafu came into Sato's hands while he was minister in Japan and then went to Aston or was returned to him, none of this is clear. And we got Catalogue of W.G. Aston's Collection of Japanese Books, Volume 1, referenced there. We go to the next page. Zosho Mokuroku B and Zosho Mokuroku Zen C. Regarding the years when the catalogues in the Yokohama Archives of History were created, if we take as a reference the times when he returned to Britain on leave, we can, to some extent, guess the periods when these catalogues were produced. To be precise, the reference is to the times when he left Japan to go home on leave and the times when he returned to Japan after his home leave. Sato left Japan for his second home leave in 1875, Meiji 8. The Zosho Mokuroku B catalogue was probably created before this. This is because in this catalogue, The prices of books are expressed in ryo, bu, shu, and momme. The Shinka-jōrei, which abolished these units of currency, was established in 1871, Meiji 4, though it is very likely that the prices of books continued for a while to be shown in the old units. Also, in a few cases, some of the books added later are priced in the new currency of yen. Taking into consideration the pricing in the catalogue, the Zōshō Mokuroku B was probably created up to about 1875. In the case of the Zōshō Mokuroku Zen C catalogue, the situation was as follows. First, when created in Zōshō Mokuroku Zen C, the catalogue Zōshō Mokuroku B was included. After that, newly acquired books were added to Zōshō Mokuroku Zen C. For example, the Meiji Shinshi, New Meiji History, was published in 1877, Meiji 10, and was not included in the Zōshō Mokuroku B, but it was included in the Zōshō Mokuroku Zen C. What is even more interesting is that in the Zōshō Mokuroku Zen C, it seems that the later entries were handwritten by Sato's librarian Shiraishi Mamichi. He began working for Sato in August 1877 and died in his house in May 1880, Meiji 13. However, in the case of Meiji Shinshi, judging from the handwriting penmanship, it was not entered in the catalogue by Shiraishi Mamichi. Meiji Shinshi seems to have been entered before Shiraishi began to write entries in the Zōshō Mokuroku Zen C. If that is correct, then Zōshō Mokuroku Zen C entries began in about 1877 and continued until about 1880. A rough count of the number of items in the Zōshō Mokuroku Zen C shows about 1,153 books, or approximately 1,150 items in round numbers. I will explain the classification of the books in Zōshō Mokuroku Zen C later. The other catalogues. Next, I want to give a simple explanation of the remaining 5 catalogues held at the Yokohama Archives of History and guess the year of creation for each one. So here they are. Kohan Shorui, Old Editions and Similar Materials. A. Zōshō Mokuroku, Rekishi Heiho Buki Rui, History, Arts of War, Weapons and Others. E. Shahon Mokuroku, Catalogue of Manuscripts. F. Zōshō Mokuroku, Shosetsu Rui, Novels and Others. G. Zōshō Mokuroku, Ga Ezu Chizurui, Paintings, Drawings, Maps and Others. H. So those are the 5 remaining catalogues. These catalogues were probably all prepared before Sato went back to Britain for his third home leave in January 1883, Meiji 16. First, Kohan Shorui A includes the books which Sato sold to the British Museum. Sato returned to Britain in 1883, and in the following year, 1884, I think that's the next page there, Meiji 17, he sold 219 items, 640 volumes, for £300 to the British Museum. The books which he sold at that time are included in this catalogue. Shahon Mokuroku F includes 2 manuscripts titled or entitled Ikokusen Kakitsuke. These manuscripts were entered in the catalogue by Sato's librarian Shiraishi Mamichi. However, they were entered as Torai Ikokusen Toriatsukata Kakitsuke Kae Nenkan and Torai Ikokusen Toriatsukata Kakitsuke Bunsei Kae Nenkan. These 2 manuscripts were originally in Aston's collection, 2 volumes. Sato borrowed them and Shiraishi transcribed them. This is clear from the following point. Cambridge University Library holds both Aston's and Sato's former collections, and Shiraishi's handwriting, penmanship, can be identified. Since Shiraishi passed away in May 1880, the entry in Shahon Mokuroku F was not done by Shiraishi but by another person. Thus, we can assume that Shahon Mokuroku F was begun in 1880 and finished before January 1883. In Zōshō Mokuroku Rekishi Heiho Buki Rui E, there is a document titled Meiji Junen Seito Gundan Kiji, which was published in September 1880. In Zōshō Mokuroku Shosetsu Rui G, there is Ikahoshi, written by Otsuki Fumihiko, which was published in 1882. In Zōshō Mokuroku Ga Ezu Chizurui H, there is Kokkai Yoho, published in 1880. From these facts, the following can be guessed. First, as indicated by their subtitles, these are book catalogues classified by specialist fields. Next, regarding the year of creation, taking into consideration the year of publication of the books, it can be assumed that all the catalogues were produced before Sato left Japan for his home leave in January 1883. Let's move down the page a bit. Whoops, there we are. Furthermore, as regards Zosho Mokuroku Rekishi Heiho Buki Rui E, it contains items already mentioned in Chapter 3, Kodai Buki no Zu, drawings of ancient weapons, Yoroi Odoshige Sodegata Jimbauri Zu, Yoshie Ason Yoroi Chakuyo no Shidai, etc. In Chapter 3, I assumed that in the process of these documents being absorbed into Sato's collection, Shiraishi Senbetsu and Mamichi had been involved. Also perhaps Sakata Moroto and others who had great interest in Buke Kojitsu, and that they had some connection with the matter. Sato had, through the introductions of such collectors, been able to acquire such books from Fujikawa Hiroshi, who had inherited the collection of Fujikawa Seisai and others of the Fujikawa family. Regarding the period when he acquired them, it can be guessed that it was broadly in the first decade of the Meiji period. This guess is consistent with the Zosho Mokuroku Rekishi Heiho Buki Rui E being produced before January 1883, Meiji 16. Again, it may be the case that Sato's acquisition of these representative works of Buke Kojitsu, Kodai Buki no Zu, Yoroi Odoshige Sodegata, Jimbauri Zu, Yoshie Ason Yoroi Chakuyo no Shidai, caused him to create the special catalogue Zosho Mokuroku Rekishi Heiho Buki Rui E. There may have been a connection between these acquisitions and the preparation of this catalogue. Above, I have provided a simple commentary of the 8 catalogues of Sato's book collection held at the Yokohama Archives of History, including their years of preparation. Among the 8 catalogues, Zosho Mokuroku Zen C is the one which gives the best general picture of Sato's collection, though it is limited as regards when it was produced. In the same sense, the 2 most useful catalogues of the 15 in the Cambridge University Library collection are the Brown Catalogue, Chairo Zosho Mokuroku, and the Blue-Grey Catalogue, Usuzumi Iro Zosho Mokuroku. In short, of the 15 catalogues held by Cambridge University Library and the 8 catalogues held, there's a reference there to Hayashi and Kornitsky's book in the footnotes, the 8 catalogues held by the Yokohama Archives of History, the 3 catalogues Zosho Mokuroku Zen C, Chairo Zosho Mokuroku, and Usuzumi Iro Zosho Mokuroku are not complete, but at the time of their production they offered a full overview of Sato's entire collection. Next, I would like to use these 3 catalogues to tackle the question of the flow, nagare, of the collection, and the problem of the acquisition of documents related to art. Investigating books related to art through the Zosho Mokuroku Zen C, Chairo Zosho Mokuroku, and Usuzumi Iro Zosho Mokuroku. The 3 catalogues, Zosho Mokuroku Zen C, Chairo Zosho Mokuroku, and Usuzumi Iro Zosho Mokuroku, each represent Sato's whole collection at the time when each one was prepared. There may also be a degree of overlap in the time when the catalogues were produced and in the periods when books entered the collection, but using these 3 catalogues, it is possible to grasp Sato's collecting from the end of the 1870s to the middle of the 1880s. Through these 3 catalogues, we can broadly understand his collecting of Japanese books during his most active period. So that's end of the 1870s to mid-1880s. The 3 catalogues broadly were created during the following periods and with the following total number of items. Zosho Mokuroku Zen C, 1877, Meiji 10 to 1880, Meiji 13, 1,153 items. The number may change depending on the way of counting. Usuzumi Iro Zosho Mokuroku Blue-Grey Catalogue, 1877, Meiji 10 to 1882, Meiji 15, about 2,550 items. And Chairo Zosho Mokuroku Brown Catalogue, 1884, Meiji 17 to 1886, Meiji 19, more than 3,000 items. The books in these catalogues are classified according to category, subject area, and subject. Next, I will list the items according to their classifications. Looks like there may be a gap between 1883. There's not catalogued. I don't know. No books acquired. Anyway, whoops. Zosho Mokuroku Zen C. Keishobu, section of Chinese classics, 18. Rikishibu, section of history, 128. Gunji Tsuzoku, popular military books, 40. Kashisho Monogatari Rui, books on poetry, tales, etc., 129. Shinsho, books on Shintoism, 105. Jisho Insho Rui, dictionaries, rhyme dictionaries, etc., 83. Seiyo Jijitsu Yakusho Rui, Japanese translations of Western affairs, etc., 16. Chirizurui, geography maps, etc., 118. Yusoku Sho, books on ancient court and military practices, 46. Zuihitsu Zasho, essays, miscellaneous writings, 135. I think we've come to the bottom of the page, have we? Yeah, oops. No, we haven't. Or have we? Oh, I'm confused now. Let's see if we can just go on. Oh, I think that is the bottom of the page. Trouble is I can't see a page number, which worries me. If I make it smaller, 149, yes, it is. Okay. So on we go to the next page. Well, continuing. Bunsho, compositions, 11. Chiri Kiko, geography, travelogues, 66. Kafurui, family records, genealogy, etc., 7. Ritsuryosho, books on statutes, codes, laws, etc., 38. Butsudosho, Buddhist books, 56. Zashorui, miscellaneous books, etc., 84. Hitsudosho, books on penmanship, 7. Yokyoku Itotake, no chants and music, 6. Shosetsuri, novels and similar things, 60. The English translations in all of these cases was provided by the author, so it's fully accurate. So the Gokei total is 1,153 items. In the above list, according to category and subject, it is important to note that there is no specially established category for art books or picture books, ehon, gahon. This was probably because there were not many of them, so it was not necessary to establish a separate field. There may have been only a few such books, but Sato was also collecting them. They were included in miscellaneous books, zasho. For example, Kinsei Meika Shogadan, Ehon Yamato Hiji, etc., were kept under zasho-rui, miscellaneous books. Ehon Taka Kagami, Zenken Kojitsu were kept under Zuihitsu Zasho, miscellaneous writings. Ehon Kojidan was kept under Jisho Insho-rui, dictionaries, etc. Butsuzo-zui was kept under Butsudosho, Buddhist books. Ehon Sangoku Yofuden was kept under Shosetsu-rui, novels. Okay. Usuzumi Iro Zosho Mokuroku, Blue-Grey Catalogue. Shinsho, books on Shintoism, 281. Nikki, diaries, 15. Monogatari, tales, 66. Waka, poetry, 76. Gogakusho, languages, 96. Tenmon, astronomy, 21. Keigakusho, Confucianism, 45. Butsudo, Bussho, Buddhism, 207. Kyokunsho, lessons and teachings, 37. Bussho, Buddhism, 94. Rekishi Kokon Tsushi, Rekishi Jodai Oyobi Kokon Tsushi no Bu, history ancient and from ancient to modern times, 51. Excuse me. Rekishi Chusei no Bu, history medieval period, 114. Rekishi Kinsei no Bu, history early modern times, 38. Kando Rekishi Kando no Bu, Chinese history, 18. Keifu, genealogy, 13. Ritsuryosho, books on statutes, codes, laws, etc., 66. Ritsuryo Bakufu no Bu, books on statutes, codes, laws, etc., Tokugawa Shogunate, 28. Okay, so next page, 152. Seiji Ritsuryo Rui, politics, codes, and laws, 119. Zuihitsu Zasho Denki Rui, essays, miscellaneous writings, and biographies, 294. Gogaku narabi ni jisho-rui, languages and dictionaries, 275. Monogatari soshi nikki-rui, tales, storybooks and diaries and similar books, 119. Waka narabi ni kiko-rui, poetry and travelogues, 100. Gahon shobutsu seizo, picture books and various products, 306. Seizo, products, 15. Sado narabi ni yo-kyoku-rui, tea ceremony and no chance, 74. Keisho-rui, Chinese classics, 40. Rekishi-rui, history, 28. Busho-rui, Buddhism, 469. Geki-jōshō-rui, books on theatre, etc., 7. Kasaku arui wa tsukuri monogatari shōrui, fictions, fictional stories and similar books, 31. Gokei, total 3,084 items. As in the case of the Blue-Grey Catalogue, Usuzumi Iro Zosho Mokuroku, in the Brown Catalogue, Chairo Zosho Mokuroku, also a special category was established for Gahon Shobutsu Seizo, picture books and various products. The title tells us the subject, but taking into consideration the size of the characters, after Gahon, the Shobutsu Seizo was added in small writing, so clearly the main part of the category was picture books, Gahon. This category contains 306 items, which is 9.9% of the total collection, or about 10%. Taking the above numbers into consideration, as there was originally no category for picture and art books in the Zosho Mokuroku Zen C, needless to say, in the Blue-Grey Catalogue, which had Hitsudo Gado, and the Brown Catalogue, it is clear that the number of picture and art books was greatly increased. Even at the stage of the Blue-Grey Catalogue, the number of picture and art books increased, but they increased much more in number at the stage of the Brown Catalogue. Whoops. From the above simple analysis of the three catalogues, Zosho Mokuroku Zen C, Usuzumi Iro Zosho Mokuroku, and Chairo Zosho Mokuroku, according to categories, Bunrui Betsu, it is clear that Sato's collection of art-related books suddenly increased from the 1880s. There may have been a small gap in time between the purchase of a book and its entry in a catalogue. Probably Sato began to collect art-related books seriously from 1879 and accelerated the pace from then. This is clear from an analysis of the three catalogues. Well, I think, let me just check. I think that, oh, need to just check. Oh, okay. I think yes, we've got to the end of chapter 4 suddenly, without much warning. All right, so I can stop the share now. And if you've continued with me as far as here, thank you very much for listening. I will go on to finish, well, go on to chapter 5, and I think there are 7 chapters in total, something like that. Let me just check. How many chapters are there? Oops. Well, there are 6 chapters and a postscript and a bibliography and an index. So we've just finished chapter 4. So thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon. Bye now.